Hello guys, welcome to IB360. So today in this class we will talk about active site or active spot of an enzyme. See, the whole enzyme is not effective in catalyzing a chemical reaction. We know enzymes are biocatalysts. They are reducing the activation energy of a reaction and thereby increasing its speed, increasing the rate of reaction. So these biocatalysts as a whole, rather the whole of the enzyme is not active. Rather, only a small portion of it is active, and that is called the active site or active spot. And therefore, the definition for active site is it is an area of the enzyme which is capable of attracting and holding particular substrate molecules by its specific charge, size, and shape so as to allow the chemical change. Okay, so if this is the entire enzyme, only this V-shaped portion is the active part. This portion is the active site, and this active site has got its own shape, size, and charge, and that allows the chemical change to happen, that allows the substrate to fit in. So if the substrate is nearby, suppose, which is also like this in shape, so this substrate will fit in like a key fits inside a lock, just by goes by that mechanism somewhat. It will fit in the active site and it will undergo changes, and it will form the product. So active site, another important characteristic of active site is it fails to recognize other molecules. Fails to recognize other molecules. Okay. It can only recognize the substrate. It can only recognize the substrate which has its shape, which has its complementary shape. If another, suppose this is another molecule which is nearby, it will not recognize it because this spherical substrate wouldn't fit into it. So it will not recognize this one, rather it will recognize its own substrate that will fit inside it. So it is highly specific. It is highly specific. Okay. And active sites consist of a few amino acids and their side groups which are brought together in a particular fashion due to secondary and tertiary folding of the protein molecule, and sometimes its association with cofactor. In the previous video I had talked about simple and conjugate enzymes, how simple enzymes are 100% proteins, but conjugate enzymes, they are not 100% proteins, rather they contain certain non-protein groups also, which would be coenzymes or cofactors, and cofactors can be coenzymes or prosthetic groups or metallic groups, depending upon their nature, whether they would be organic or inorganic, whether they would be permanently fixed or easily separable. So all those classifications we have seen in our last class, last video. So here let me show you how this folding is done. Suppose this is the primary protein structure, okay, a single chain, and let us draw some active sites. So suppose these are parts of active site. This is one active site. Okay, let me show you. So this is one active site. This is one. All these are parts of active sites. So this protein will undergo folding. This is a 1-degree organization of protein, the primary organization. This is the N terminal, this is the C terminal, the left side and right side conventionally we know, and there are constituent amino acid monomers like this, which would be joined by peptide bonds, right? All these things we know. So this is the primary organization, the first degree organization. So this will fold something like this, like we are folding strings, as if the string has been folded. And what happens as a result of this folding is all these active sites come to lie side by side, and this portion forms the active spot or the active site. So all these were parts of active site. Then this happened. So this was a result of folding. This can be a secondary folding or a tertiary folding. Which brought all the individual active sites, the parts of one whole active site closer, and the grouping of amino acids of the polypeptide during the formation of the tertiary structure to produce an active site is shown here. This is mostly 3-degree organization. And we know enzymes are globular proteins, not fibrous, so they must have a minimum of 3-degree organization actually. So let's call this a tertiary folding strictly, not a secondary folding. In many books they have written secondary folding, but it would be most appropriate to call it a tertiary folding. Okay, so this is the active site I was talking about. So then let us talk about the properties of enzymes. We have already studied chemical nature of enzyme, where we had classified enzymes into simple and conjugate. But today we will deal with the chemical and physical properties, everything of enzymes as a whole. And this is a very important topic because here you will get a very overview, a very zoomed out picture of enzymes. So enzymes, we know they are generally globular proteins. So as far as protein nature is concerned, they are globular proteins, and they may have additional inorganic or organic substances for their activity. Those are called cofactors. However, some types of RNA function as enzymes. Okay, like ribonuclease P and peptidyl transferase. Okay, which so this is involved in protein synthesis, has also been found to be part of rRNA, and these are called ribozymes. So here, other than RNA enzymes, that is ribozymes, all enzymes are globular proteins. Now here also another important thing, globular proteins. Now if they are simple, then they would be 100% protein. But if they are conjugate, they will have some non-protein part also. Okay, that is the deal. And I have talked about all these things earlier, so you can easily go and check those content out. The second thing is molecular weight. Being proteinaceous, enzymes are obviously giant molecules, so they will have a molecular weight of 6,000 to 4 lakhs, 60,000 molecular weight. And so molecular weight is mainly contributed to giant protein molecules. Okay. Then comes the colloidal nature of enzymes. So colloidal nature because they are hydrophilic and they form hydrosol in free state. Hydrophilic means they are water friendly. If they had been hydrophobic, then they would have a phobia of water. They would have feared water. But they are hydrophilic in nature. So from there, let me remove all these things actually. I've talked about conjugate and simple proteins earlier. You can go check them out actually. Okay. So colloidal nature because of their hydrophilicity. That means water loving. Chemical reaction. So this is a very important property of enzyme. Okay, this is in fact one of the most important property out of this 13. The chemical reaction thing. See, enzymes, they do not start a reaction. Okay, chemical reactions under enzymes. So the first point is enzymes do not initiate a reaction. They simply increase the rate of the reaction. That means they are not changing the equilibrium but bringing the equilibrium very soon. So if this is the substrate and this is changing into product under the influence of the enzyme, so for example, this reaction is a highly endothermic reaction. This requires high temperature, suppose 1000 degrees Celsius. Okay, in absence of enzyme. But if enzyme would have been there, it would have occurred under 200 degrees Celsius temperature. So this is the effect of enzyme. Enzyme will bring about the reaction much sooner. It will increase the rate of the reaction. Without enzyme also the reaction will start, and if there is a problem in the substrate or other conditions, then even if the enzyme is present, it won't start. So enzyme has nothing to do with initiating a reaction. It will not initiate a reaction. It will simply bring the equilibrium very soon. Brings the equilibrium sooner. What is equilibrium? That means we know that if a reaction is reversible, something like this, then the rate, then this is in a dynamic state. Okay, this particular process is in a dynamic state. That means we are constantly getting product from substrate, and we are also getting substrate from product. So the reaction can move both forward and backward because it is a reversible reaction. But equilibrium will be that state when both these processes, that means the forward direction process and the backward direction process, both these processes are occurring at the same rate, and there is a stability, there is the equilibrium established. So this equilibrium, that means the rate of S to P and the rate of P to S, that means the rate of 1 and the rate of 2, when R1 equals R2, this is equilibrium. And our enzyme simply helps in achieving this faster. That is the role of an enzyme. Very, very important. Okay. This part was very important. The 4-1. Then comes efficiency. Number of substrate molecules changed per minute by a molecular enzyme is called turnover number. Okay. And the higher the turnover number, the more efficient an enzyme is. Or in simple words, the more product you get out of a substrate, the more efficient the enzyme is. That means suppose you are having 10 substrate, and out from there you get 2 products, and 8 substrate is wasted. But if you have 10 substrate and in presence of enzyme, a very efficient enzyme rather, you get 8 product and 2 substrate is wasted. So that simply is the evidence of the efficiency of the enzyme. So more the turnover of the product from the substrate, more efficient is the enzyme. Then comes unchanged form. Enzymes are in no way transformed, okay, or used up in the chemical reaction. I talked about this earlier also. So they are unaffected from the reaction. Enzymes are unaffected or unchanged from the chemical reaction. Reversibility. Theoretically, all enzyme controlled reactions are reversible, but reversibility, however, is dependent upon energy requirements, availability of reactants, concentration of the end products, and pH. So this is a very theoretical statement that all enzyme controlled reactions are supposed to be reversible. Okay, that means this thing. But reversibility, this phenomena of reversibility depends on other things also, like temperature, pH, then availability of reactants. Reactant means substrates only, but if substrate is more than one, they would be called reactants. And also the concentration of the end product, because here the concentration of product is also playing a role, since the reaction can occur in both direction. So sometimes the product from the product, when the product again moves backward to form the substrate, its concentration also depends, matters actually. Then enzyme specificity. So enzymes are highly specific in their action. While studying active sites, we had seen that enzymes are highly specific in nature, because active site won't fit any molecule, any available molecule. So they are highly specific in action. For example, the enzyme maltase, which is acting on sugar maltose, can act only on sugar maltose but not on lactose or sucrose, which are other sugars, other disaccharides. Okay, and this is same with every enzyme. All enzymes are highly specific. Then the next thing is heat sensitivity. All enzymes are heat sensitive or thermolabile. Okay, all are heat sensitive. Protein poisons. So, being made of proteins, enzymes are inactivated or denatured by all those substances and forces which are capable of destroying protein structure. For example, high energy radiations. Okay, high energy radiations, because these can denature proteins, and enzymes are proteins, so they are subjected to all these harmful elements in nature which are toxic or harmful for proteins in general. They are also affected in a similar fashion by them. Then comes pH. So each enzyme functions at a particular pH. Enzymes are highly specific in terms of temperature, in terms of pH also. For example, the enzyme pepsin, which is found in our stomach, can operate only at a specific pH of 2, and that is why HCl is secreted by the stomach cells to maintain this specific pH, to maintain that acidity. Otherwise, pepsin wouldn't be active. Salivary amylase, which is also known as ptyalin, is active at almost 7 or 6.8 to be precise pH in our mouth, actually, saliva. So all these things are showing the enzymes are highly specific in nature. About enzyme substrate complex, I have already discussed actually this in previous class. They are forming this thing E plus S. They would form, that means enzyme plus substrate, they would form an enzyme substrate complex, which would form enzyme product complex, and then that will release the product. So E plus product. This is the very typical flow chart which we um, through which we try to describe the enzyme substrate relationship. Okay, then there is the chain reactions. Biochemical reactions, we know they are not isolated. Always they are followed with other reactions in quick succession, and a team of enzymes work actually one after the other to accomplish such multi-step reactions, and each reaction they would be highly enzyme specific. So if enzyme A is catalyzing the first reaction, the next subsequent reaction won't be catalyzed by the same enzyme, because all these biochemical processes are highly enzyme specific. So chain of reactions involve many enzymes, or team of enzymes we can say. So when you will study biochemical processes, for example glycolysis, Krebs cycle, there you will get a very clear picture of how enzymes are working as team, and how the physiological conditions are maintained inside our body, like pH and temperature and availability of reactants and products and everything, to meet the requirement of the enzymes so that they can catalyze those biochemical reactions. Okay, I hope you understood today's class. Thank you.